December 2nd, 2024. I'd like to welcome everyone to the last edition of the 2024 Planning Commission. Can we all rise, please, for the national anthem? National anthem? How about the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, guests, welcome. Roll call, please, Mr. Khan.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Rudisell?
Here.
Mr. Cleary?
Here.
Ms. Hopcraft?
Here.
Croft, sorry. Mr. O'Connor?
Present.
And Mr. Khan, present. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Linderman, that's right. Yes,
Present.
welcome, Mr. Linderman. My apologies. And Mr. Linderman.
Right away, you're just yesterday's.
I know.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Khan. And that's how we learn everybody's names is when they correct us. Number 5, approval of minutes of the November 4th Planning Commission minutes.
Make a motion to table that till our January meeting.
Sorry, can you give me a little?
We don't have the minutes.
You don't have them?
No.
They should be in front of you. We passed them out
I
to everybody.
still make my motion to approve it till next January meeting.
To table it until
To
then.
table it till January.
We have a motion from Mr. Rudicelli. Any support?
Support Linderman.
Mr. Cleary?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have a motion
Motion.
by Mr. Rudicelli,
Motion by
and we
Mr.
have
Rudicelli.
support
by Mr. Linderman.
Mr. Linderman to table the approval of the minutes till the January meeting because
I would just-
they weren't sent out yet.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine.
Mr. O'Connor, I just want to interject really quickly. I want to apologize to everybody. Obviously, Mr. Buckner is not here tonight. I'm filling in. There has been we've been trying to access all the documents. I wanted to get the copy out so everybody could access it in case there were adjustments. But I believe with what you're saying, Mr. Russo, makes a lot of sense so everybody has the time to read it over. And I also want to say I have been able to speak with Mr. Buckner about this to verify it. So I think to respect him in his position, it would probably be best.
Very good. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hopcroft?
Yes.
Mr. Cleary?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor? Mr. Rudicelli?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor? Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Oh, you're the
And
last.
then me last.
Okay, Mr. Khan, yes. Mr. O'Connor?
Yes. Cool. Very good.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Agenda. Does everybody have a copy of the agenda?
Yes.
Do I hear any additions, corrections? May I get a motion to approve this agenda?
Also move.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Ms. Hopcroft and support by Mr. Cleary to approve today's agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Linderman?
Yes.
Mr. Rudicelli?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Cleary?
Yes.
Mrs. Hopcroft? Ms. Hopcroft, sorry.
Yes. No snorting.
No snorting, no snorting.
That was me.
Mr. Khan, yes. Mr. O'Connor?
Yes. Motion passed. Thank you, Mr. Khan. Yeah. You got an MS and a short O. Got it. We have a moment now for public comment. I'm going to give you ample time to think it out, okay? At this time, we don't have any public comment. Our old business. The first item is the F41 pantry and food. This is where I would move to Mr. Buckner for input on that. I'm sure if you talked to him, he gave you input on that.
Yeah, so essentially with the old business, same thing with what we're looking at. We talked briefly about these things. I don't have a significant update as on anything. I think really what we're looking into is getting into the cold weather. We're getting closer and closer to the point where these projects don't appear like they might actually happen this year. So, but I can't speak definitively, on either of those things. So, but that's essentially the update at this point.
And just to continue on that, at our last update, they were still waiting for equipment, which is underground storage tanks, and as we all know, the underground has to go in first before anything else can happen. So we'll continue to move down there. Our next item, Vinnie's True Value, and I don't understand what that means. His contractor has two other buildings in front of this.
So he's third in line, and I'd spoken to Vinnie about this a while back before we took office, and I think there is some things we have to sort out with the EIC and with the proposed building donation, and so there's multiple parts to this that will have to kind of be sorted out before anything happens there.
Okay, we should have another discussion with him about that. His donation of a building or EIC has absolutely nothing to do with the site plan approval that we've done.
I agree. What's been
Yeah.
communicated to me is that it would potentially change the layout of the building, which then would require additional steps with the planning commission. Yeah, I think we're talking about essentially one of the biggest, or the biggest vacant buildings in the downtown business district, so it's not very straightforward at this point.
I agree, just don't want somebody to go down the wrong road.
Yep.
Thank you. Excuse me. Moving on, new business.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I thought we had more than 2 cases out there. Wasn't there some apartments approved out here or something? California Street?
You would be referring to the Oscoda.
I'm not sure, I don't know the name.
Right,
So it was before.
and unfortunately, I don't think that Mr. Buckner would have spoke to you about that, but a few months ago, I believe that is
Well, he was waiting till after the election.
very close to 0 right now, and
So.
if that, but that's gossip as far as
Yeah,
I'm
no,
concerned.
I
I
just
don't know anything about it.
I thought it would be on the list, that's all I'm asking.
Get understood. We can ask Mr. Buckner to get that information for our next
Thank you.
meeting. Could you please put that in for agenda items for Friday? It's Oscoda Development.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up. New business. Master Plan Subcommittee will start. I don't want to read this the way it's printed. We'll start meeting after the first of the year. Members of the Planning Commission, EIC will be working on this together with input and work sessions to include the public. At this time, Ms. Hopcroft is going to address the committee and whatnot so that we can pick some numbers for our first meeting in January. Can you just go over some bullet points as to what the Master Plan Subcommittee is going to entail?
Well, maybe 2 different things. We have a master plan in place right now, and the master plan subcommittee that we have had was the master plan action step subcommittee, because if you look at the 7 goals of the master plan, there are goals set forth for up through 2024. So there are things that if we're following our previously approved plan, there are things to be done. So what the master plan action step subcommittee did was to review those things, see if we're behind on any of those targets, and then identify where we are in terms of the schedule, bring that to the Planning Commission, and also discuss how those action steps would look, and bring that discussion to the planning commission, perhaps with some suggestions and to flesh it out a bit so that the whole commission has an idea of how we are living and breathing the existing, master plan. Then separate and apart from that, but I think this is more of a committee of the whole. The planning commission, of course, is charged with the creation of a master plan and the approval of a master plan, and subject to the approval by the township board of the distribution thereof. So this is one of the planning commission's most important statutory functions, is to actually create that master plan. And clearly the statute anticipates that we call on all the resources in the, even in the county-wide and adjacent municipalities, but certainly the resources of our township to put that together. So that's a process. So sort of a so in other words, to summarize, there's a master plan action step subcommittee, and then there's the master plan committee of the whole for the new master plan going forward, which I think, would that start in 2025?
Yeah, it's due for 2025. And I was just reading, as I said, as it was printed, but that will also include our public works, our parks and recreation, and if there's anyone else that would have input on our master plan review, which is what we're doing. Am I correct, Mr. Linderman?
That's correct. There's one thing that goes along with the master plan, is the Parks and Rec plan, which is a total separate document that needs to be addressed in 25 also. That document will be the driving force behind funding for grants in the future. So really they need to be done simultaneously in harmony.
Which in fact, thank you, which in fact is why I was kind of paraphrasing this paragraph the way it was written and holding the meat of this off until our next meeting so that we could make sure that we included everyone that was necessary. And I appreciate your input on that. And we'll be working with Mr. Buckner to make sure that we get everything in order and have everybody represented. Thank you. And then the other thing is, our ordinance subcommittee will also be looking to put together a ordinance subcommittee which helps identify procedures, regulations, and ordinances in need of revision, report the need to the planning commission, propose language for the same, and then present to the planning commission. And usually this takes quite a few meetings to go through if we do have any ordinances, and then to bring it up to the board of trustees and make sure that we're working in orchestrating together. Can't put that word together.
May I comment on that?
Yes, go right ahead, please.
An example of that work was when the light ordinance was recently redone to have some teeth, and when the vacant building ordinance was recently redone so that it was much more enforceable. So those were actions that were instigated by the, or maybe started by the ordinance subcommittee and then brought up the chain to the PC and the township board.
Right, and our planning and zoning substitute, it's pretty good when your substitute teacher's the principal, you know, is going to comment on those two items that you just brought up a little later, okay? Just so you know that we didn't forget about it. Okay? Next item, report from the Zoning Board of Appeals, Mr. Cleary.
No report, haven't had a meeting.
Okey-dokey. Report from the Township Board Representative.
Good afternoon, good evening. At the November 14th Board of Trustee meeting, there were two motions which failed on the accessory structure final review. So I suspect those two will be coming back to the Planning Commission for review and move back forward to the board when appropriate. On November 22nd, we board held a special meeting. We hired an attorney, Mr. Robert Eppert, to represent our township. And on November 25th, the board meeting, there was several appointments to boards. As you know, I didn't want to go through all of them, but I provided you a list outlining all the appointees. So you have questions, you'll know who to contact. And I am glad to be back on the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Lindeman. and welcome back. Report of the Planning Commission subcommittees. Ms. Hopcroft, I know you kind of just went through that, but go ahead.
Well, neither one of them has met, really. Certainly not since our last meeting. And, yeah, I may have a report on subcommittee of the EIC.
We'll let you carry right into that then.
All right, so.
Because I was absent for that one also, thank you.
So, a subcommittee of the EIC, loved by us all, is the Art and Placemaking Subcommittee. And, we have set some goals for the coming year and submitted our budget to the Township Board. And one of the projects we'd like to undertake this year is for for freestanding 3D art made of found objects. So we thought this might be something that would be very appealing to our population, and people who have things in their pole barns or the garages, extra screws, nuts, bolts, tools, and they can come up with some very interesting things. I've seen a lot of these on display, and so we're pretty excited about that, and we'll have other projects as well.
So it won't be just the lost and found from the library and township hall?
No, it'll be.
We're inviting all the citizens
all the pole barns
to
and,
put in there. And I, at the request of some board members, participants today, we're going to put the report from the zoning director in front of comments from the planning commission members. And we'd like to ask Mr. Maxwell to report on that.
Yeah, thank you, and I request that just because I think we should end with the board and you guys are the ones appointed. I'm filling in for Mr. Buckner, as you guys know. We hope Mr. Buckner is okay going forward. He's just kind of had an unexpected absence. So in the interim, I'll kind of fulfill as much as I can. That's why there's some lack of access to documents and information. Something we hope to smooth out kind of moving forward within the administration. What I want to talk about is we talked briefly about this with the regulatory and zoning ordinances kind of for our blight and accessory structures. One of the things that's been really educational for me going through this process is having access to more conversation and dialogue with the attorney and with other outside individuals. And it's something we really need to look back into, as you were talking about, Ms. Hopcroft. There is some question about how things were kind of put forward in recent months, I would say, and we need to assess that, and it's something that we are going to be doing moving forward. To my understanding, what essentially has been conveyed to me is if we're looking at a strictly regulatory ordinance, it doesn't actually need to be in front of the planning commission. That would actually be a township board ordinance that we would approve. Whereas when you're looking at a zoning ordinance, that would be going in front of the planning commission first and then onto the township board. And one of the things that I've kind of been witnessing, and I've had some discussions with Mr. Linderman about, is one of the issues we have sometimes is if we're relying on one individual, in this case it would be Mr. Linderman, to answer all the questions for the township board and the public when we're trying to potentially approve an ordinance or update. It's a lot of pressure and a lot of essential onus on one individual. And one of the things I've seen other communities do is when there are these instances where there's something we do need to address, is they will have a joint work session or a joint meeting. So then the whole township board has the ability to kind of vet all the questions with the planning commission, and we're all kind of working together to form this document. Because when we're separated, what ends up happening is the end responsibility of final adoption is actually on the township board. You know, more the creation of it sometimes is on the planning commission and the adoption, but it's really a situation where if we could have a more symbiotic and stronger working relationship, I think that would benefit all of us. And also get a better education and a stronger understanding of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what we're trying to solve with that. And so it's something for all of you to think about coming into next year that we might take a little bit of a different approach with. And I think it could be really good for all of us. I want to touch briefly, Mr. Khan, his appointment is up at the end of the year. It is something I've spoken to Eric about. One of the processes, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more at the township board. it is my statutory responsibility to make appointments to boards and committees pending approval from the township board. One thing I hope to do is have a more collaborative approach, and so I've spoken with a number of individuals, but in specific instances for the planning commission, I hope to speak to the planning commission chair, the representative from the township board, plus in this instance, the staff would be the zoning administrator, just to kind of get feedback, because really, all of you need to have this support as well as the township board supporting the individuals on our board. So I'm looking forward to those conversations. It's definitely on the radar, and I appreciate Eric stepping in kind of unique circumstances and fulfilling that role, and hopefully that's something we can continue moving forward. I will say, just as a caveat, there is we have a unique situation with a lot of the appointments that have been made over the last number of years. The terms don't match up to what we really need. And so we have, I believe, a shortcoming next year, because as you all know, we have to appoint or reappoint 1/3 of the planning commission members annually. So the 6 members, not the representative, each year 2 people need to be. And next year, I believe we only have 1 person expiring at the end of 25. So one of the things we're talking about is the appointment or reappointment will be a 1-year term potentially. So just keep that on your radar, that's wise, so we fall within the legal bounds. So, okay, next thing I will talk about, we do have a budget work session. You were just talking about some potential requests for the art placemaking subcommittee. We're gonna have our budget work session tomorrow. We're excited. We've kind of had some conversations about that. We're walking into a very unique circumstance with everything that we're trying to deal with, trying to, in our first weeks, adopt a budget for next year. It's a very unique situation that we've walked into. The other thing I want to say is, currently, just so everybody understands, when the township board, the previous township board, rescinded the duties from the superintendent to the supervisor, those statutory responsibilities fall on my shoulders as a supervisor. So currently, without an interim superintendent or a superintendent or manager in that position, it is my responsibility to fulfill much of the administrative responsibility. So if there are questions, there are concerns, by all means, doors open until we kind of figure out collectively, and I can't speak for our township board as to what direction we're going to go or what we're going to do. Those will be conversations we'll be having coming up in the coming days and weeks. But until then, doors open if you have any questions, things to address. And I look forward to working kind of with everybody and moving township forward. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. One quick question. You had mentioned the budget work session, and just in case I did miss you saying it, you said it's tomorrow?
At 4 p.m. right here.
At 4 p.m. right here.
Right here, yep, we'll be back here.
Thank you very much. Very good. Board comments from the planning commission members. And I know I always start with Mr. Anderson, and I'm not gonna do that again today. Mr. Cleary, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. First off, I'd like to welcome Mr. Linderman to the Planning Commission. I know we lost a lot of knowledge with Mr. Taser not getting reelected, but I think we got equal knowledge back on this board with Mr. Linderman. I look forward to working with him and this board. A couple announcements for the township. Christmas parade this Saturday, 7 p.m. Kelly, 6 p.m. And then the Christmas community show, December 13th and 14th at the Shoreline Players. It's a free show for everyone to come and see. Our Spida kids are going to be doing a little 1-act show, and then there's going to be lots of talent singing Christmas carols to everybody. So join us for that. I think that I don't want to quote a time just because I messed up last time I quoted it. So I want to say it's 6, but I'm not going to say that.
But it's the 15th and 16th?
13th and 14th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And also, everyone have a happy holiday since this is our last meeting prior to next year. So happy holidays to everyone out there too.
Thank you, Mr. Cleary. Mr. Rudicelli?
I also would like to welcome Mr. Linderman to the board. Again, bringing knowledge. The committee side, subcommittees of this board, I need some more information on that program at some point, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
Thank you. And everybody have a Merry Christmas.
sorry, I'm having a hard time writing, I just want to make sure I put it up on that. Mr. Anderson, how are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Glad to see you back.
Thank you.
I would like to, thank and welcome Mr. Linderman. Glad to see you back.
Thank you.
And also wish everyone a happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year, and, be as safe as you can. That's all I got.
I'm gonna go to you, Mr. Khan, so when you're done typing, you can
Oh,
start.
yeah. Welcome, Mr. Linderman. Appreciate everything mentioned by everybody, Mr. Maxwell included, and thank you for filling in. Hope everybody had a good weekend here of Thanksgiving, and just looking forward to more festivities. So, I have nothing else.
Thank you. Did I go to you yet?
No?
That's the one I was going to next. Mr. Lindemann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the community, thank the board for being a part of the planning commission. It's good to be back. One of the things I would like to advocate in the future as we move forward with our new master plan and park and rec plan is for Top Field. I believe it should be back in the Parks and Rec plan and developed into a focal point of our community. So I'll be advocating for that very strongly in 2025. Thank you.
Ms. Hopcroft.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank and appreciate Mr. Maxwell for the posture of symbiosis and collaboration. I think that will bring great strength and success to our beloved township. Partly. Okay, and then I want to.
You can be emotional. It's okay.
It's a wonderful town. I want to just mention the book, 13 Ways to Fill a Community, to anyone who hasn't had the chance to read it. I believe it was Ms. Brown and Mr. Linderman that turned me on to this book, but it's very good. It's an easy, quick, amusing read, and it's very good for grounding one's attention toward the task at hand. Next, I'd like to mention the RRC training that I recently participated in, as did many of us on the commission. Only Mr. O'Connor and I were lucky enough to attend the last session, which was very revelatory and very encouraging. And I already did mention this at the township board because I was so excited I could not say it. That we have our own rep, and that is Dan Leonard. Right, and he, because we are an RRC community, we are already entitled to a lot of resources, meaning experts that will come in and help assess what we've got and help bring, then when we've assessed what we've got, they will bring resources, including developers, including trainings, including access to professionals and some professional services to help our township develop in accordance with our master plan and in accordance with the desires of the community. So I don't want to lose our opportunity, and I'd love to see us get right on it. And what I envision as the first step is that Dan Leonard is ready and willing and able to come here at our request. And so I would like to advocate to the township board, and I believe I already did, and to Ms. House, and to the EIC and to us, that we invite Mr. Leonard ASAP, but before we do, we get with Ms. House, or maybe not we, whoever it is that does it, I'm happy to be a part, and have our catalog of all our vacant and available properties, along with the contact information of the owner and a little profile if we have it, and that we travel around in a group or a committee or whatever with Mr. Leonard, and then show him each of these and make him aware of what we know about the community, about the individual properties, and get his reaction. And that's an excellent starting point. And then what they do at MEDC is, once we've decided, perhaps with his help, on 4 to 6 individual properties that we'd like to consider, they will put together a developer showcase for us, and they commonly bring in 50 developers and have like an open house or a gathering at Township Hall or whatever, and then go around to see the properties in question and help us get the ball rolling. And as an added bonus, I thought, Dan Leonard said, yes, I've seen that old school that you have in Oscoda. I've had my eyes on that for a while. That old school has some really good bones to it. So anyway, he is very knowledgeable, and so I'm super excited about that. I am also very happy to have Mr. Lindeman back.
Thank you.
I would like for us all to send wishes for good and robust health to Mr. Buckner so that we can see him back ASAP. And then finally, I'd like to add on to Mr. Cleary's comment that after the Shoreline Players Christmas show on Friday and Saturday, on Sunday is the Special Olympics Talent Show. And I believe that starts at 4, but check your local listings. I'm not sure if it's 4 this year, but my girl Natalie will be dancing. Thank
You
you.
better find out what time she's on time.
I know.
Thank you, Ms. Hopcroft. In your excited presentation, it was kind of in the middle, but Mr. Dan Leonard is with the MEDC.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I
let's
just
be
wanted
clear
to
about
point that out.
That's who put on their training, yeah.
The MEDC. Okay, very good. Boy, everybody pretty much covered everything. This could be one of those meetings where I only have one sentence to say, and that is, we are all just very, very pleased to welcome Mr. Linderman back to the Planning Commission. We, as Mr. Cleary said, or Mr. Ruselli echoed, we got a great deal of education that returned and a lot of experience. So thank you, Mr. Linderman, and welcome. And without much ado, we were done. Thank you, everyone.